So we took all those processes and we put them in cloud-based capability so that people can go online and they can book, they can see live availability, and they can book their favorite groomer in the salon, and they can now book their hotel stay or their regular doggy daycare that they want to have and see real-time availability and know right away that their spot is reserved.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is Greg Fancher. Greg is the Executive Vice President of IT and Chief Information Technology Officer of PetSmart, a role he's held since January of 2023. Since then, he has restructured his leadership team and developed an approach to continuous development and innovation at the company. He's also shifted from a distribution-centered focused model to a store-based e-commerce fulfillment model. And I look forward to hearing more about each of these changes and other topics that are sure to come up through this conversation. Greg was previously the Chief Technology Officer of Express Incorporated and the Chief Information Officer of Taco Bell. Greg, welcome to Technovation. It's a pleasure to speak with you today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Peter.
That's a great pleasure. Well, Greg, let's begin with PetSmart. Can you talk a bit about the business as it stands now?
Yeah, absolutely. PetSmart is a leading omnichannel specialty retailer. We have products and services and solutions that help pet parents for the lifetime of their pets. So 1,700 stores in the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico. We have a strong and growing digital presence. We have an office in Asia, and we have a new emerging technology office in Costa Rica. We have a broad assortment of products across pet species. So everything from consumables to toys to treats, apparel, health and wellness, and veterinary services. What we sell is a mix of proprietary brands, licensed collections, and we also have many of the national brands as well. We also have a set of services. So we have salons in all of our stores. We also have Pets Hotel, doggy daycare, and training and veterinary services. For me, one of the things is our mission is really important to me, and that is that we bring pet parents closer to their pets so they can live more fulfilled lives. When I started working at PetSmart, I've got a couple cats, and they're very important to me. And I noticed a big difference. Pets are really important to everyone. When people would ask where I used to work before PetSmart, the responses I got from, saying I worked at Express or Taco Bell was, oh, that's interesting. But when I tell people that I work at PetSmart, you see their faces light up, the phone comes out and they show me pictures of their pets. They get excited. They ask about my pets. I mean, we're talking everything from like when I'm checking in at a hotel to my friends and kids. It's really special. And so, I think that all of PetSmart is fueled by this passion for pets, and our associates feel that way. The pet parents feel that way. And it's really something that is unique that I didn't really appreciate until I got here.
That's really fantastic. The moniker of pet parent is really very clearly apt. People are sharing as though it's their children, right? Showing
Yeah.
photos, talking about nature of their relationship with their pets and so on. That's really a fantastic story. I wanted to also ask you about your role as Executive Vice President of IT and Chief Information Technology Officer. As no, two set of tech and digital exec roles are exactly the same. What's within your purview, Greg?
I'm responsible for a team that is very strong. And that team looks over and defines the enterprise strategy for technology. So all things related to technology, including infrastructure and our digital transformation initiatives. This includes things like everything from point of sale and our inventory management to e-commerce platforms, customer information, and data analytics. We really look to make sure that we're ensuring our systems are secure and reliable, but we also spend time collaborating with other executives to make sure that as we're investing dollars in technology, that we're doing it in a way that it makes the most sense and we get value for every dollar that we can invest. And so a couple of things go on there. One is, when you think about it, there are a lot of competing business objectives. You've got everything that you want to do for the salon and the store and digital things in supply chain. And it's, sometimes you have different leaders that are very focused in their one area. So we put in a process around what I call portfolio management. And that's really about doing a long range plan. We spend a lot of time on that. So we look out 3 years and we try to define what are the things that we need to do for each of those different functional areas to drive the business forward. And at the same time, there are things that we need to do because a piece of software is going end of life, or there's new technology capability out there, and try to merge those two things together to come up with a long range plan that we then take and say, okay, in order to get there, what do we need to do next year? We take that, and I spend a lot of time with my peers. We go through that list and say, okay, here's all the stuff that we want and need to do. And transparently, we all agree on what those priorities are. So it's not competing priorities, it's a single set of priorities that we're all aligned to at the leadership level across the company. My team goes and executes on that with all of the partners in the different functional areas. And we report out on that very transparently. So that's what we spend our time on.
That's great. I love that overview, and I love the collaborative nature of what you just described as well. I mentioned at the outset that you, in the early days, you're now a little shy of 2 years into your role. You went about the process of restructuring your leadership team and centralizing operations to a greater extent. And I wonder, can you talk a bit about how this has improved overall performance?
I think times change, and so the needs of an organization change. And what I found when I came here was that we had a lot of people that are focused in different areas and different kinds of specializations. And so when you needed to come together to deliver a single project, it required many, many different groups and many, many different leaders. And when you've got a list of projects longer than your arm, having to have all your leaders go to all the meetings for all the different projects and make all the key decisions, you get a little bit of a leadership bottleneck. And so one of the things that we did is we really aligned priorities so that we had clear accountability, and individual leaders knew that they had responsibility for delivering that one project or those 5 projects. And that, yes, we would need to have collaboration across the teams, but they really had the core of the delivery in their own area. Part and parcel of that is narrowing a list of projects so that people weren't trying to focus on too many different things. I worked with my peers and said, hey, would you rather have a lot of things sort of done, okay? Or should we focus on a few things and deliver them as best we can and deliver them on time and on budget? And we agreed to really narrow the list and get those few critical priorities done. And so, that allowed our teams to restructure a bit to really be narrowly focused on their area and delivering all the capability they needed to have. It also allowed them to become experts in each area. So in e-commerce or in SAP, our ERP system, or in our stores and distribution centers.
Fascinating, really interesting. And again, highlighting the nature of collaboration. You talked about it with a lens towards the strategic planning process, now the modes of interaction towards the development of even new ideas. And actually, that fits nicely with the next area I wanted to cover with you, Greg. I know you and I have discussed in the past some of your approaches to fostering continuous development and innovation within the company. And I wonder if you could talk a bit about some of those methods. Obviously, the planning process you described, the collaboration with the broader organization, is at least partially towards an end of developing new ideas, new innovations on behalf of the organization. I would love to hear more about the methods you use.
Everything that we've done with the portfolio process and reorganizing the teams has all been about faster, reliable delivery. There's a third piece of that, which is you need to really have the platforms and the environments that allow you to move faster and innovate. And so over the last few years, one of the things that we've really been focused on here is, hey, we've got some systems that have been around for maybe a little too long. They still work okay, but it's very expensive to integrate new capabilities or to change functionality because sometimes they're a bit of a black box. Sometimes there's less support than we would want to have, and sometimes the skill sets aren't necessarily available. And so with this replatforming that we've looked at, we're really going through and pulling out legacy systems and putting in what we're focused on as modern open systems that allow us to integrate microservices and microservices architecture, as well as capability that we purchased from others. And so that's been a rather large transition test for us. A great example of that is we're in the process of replatforming our e-commerce solution from a single monolithic application down to a set of microservices. We've been able to go live with our product pages and our homepage on a new platform. And the way we did that, we brought up the new platform in parallel to our legacy platform. And we were able to literally test the performance of both of those the same time, the same customers, the same volume, and A/B test the performance. I will tell you those results have been incredibly encouraging, and it has given us the credibility and the knowledge of how the new systems have impacted the overall business, which when you can measure that and show it positively and show actual dollar amounts and percentages, it supercharges the rest of the replatforming effort. The reason why I talk about that is because on that new platform, when you have microservices, and just like we did in our stores and we did with our order management system, it allows you to then iterate on the customer experience much faster, find those pressure points, and implement new solutions very quickly.
Well articulated, Greg. I appreciate that. I mentioned at the outset also that you recently shifted from a distribution center focused model, which is certainly the traditional model for retail, and to a store-based e-commerce fulfillment model. And I wonder, what are some of the biggest challenges along the way, as well as the benefits that you've accrued as a result of this transition?
Yeah, so that actually dovetails very nicely with what we were just talking about. If you take a step back, we are a true omnichannel retailer. We have stores, you can buy online and have it shipped to your home. You can buy online and have it picked up in the store. We have auto ship. And, with all these different capabilities, we also have like marketplace, right? So we'll show up in Instacart or DoorDash. Now, with all of those, those are some pretty good capabilities, but we challenged ourselves and we said, customers want the product faster, right? And that's a capability that's really can get really expensive and can be really hard to do just because of geographical challenges. So what if we were able to use our 1,700 stores, or almost 1,700 stores, as distribution centers? What would that do for our business? What would that do for our customers? Can we do that economically? And would there be a speed advantage? And so, the team challenged themselves to figure out how we could do that, what it would take, because we know that for a lot of online retailers, they might have a couple or 5 or 10 distribution centers, and you really need to pick where they are. And then speed comes at a premium, or sometimes there are just physical limitations, right? And so what we had to do to really bring that to life is we needed to first figure out how much volume our stores could handle, because they need to figure out how to pick the items off the shelves, and they needed to pack them. And then we needed to have like a courier or like FedEx come and pick up those packages. And then the second thing we needed to do is really figure out how we could make sure the right orders were going to the right stores, so that we weren't, placing an order in a store in New Jersey and having it shipped to California. That would be very self-defeating. So we ended up having to take our time and implement a new order management system that has a lot of capabilities, a lot of knobs and dials and switches we could flip to get the right optimization there. In addition to that, we needed to make sure that our in-store capability was as efficient as possible. So we also went to the extent of mapping out every single one of our stores and being able to use some advanced technology to optimize the pick paths that our stores were taking. So some technical investments there, but then, from our store managers, give them credit, and our store operations team, they really figured out how to pick, pack, and ship those products as efficiently as possible. The results have been amazing. We call it ship from store. We have that rolled out to about a third of our stores, and 90% of our orders are shipped from store now.
Incredible, remarkable progress. Well,
Yeah.
and additionally, from a transformation perspective, you've introduced new POS system capabilities, as well as revamping in-store services such as pet grooming and training. You talked about that in your
Yeah.
introduction of the business. How do these changes enhance the overall customer and pet experience as well?
Some of those investments, they've done a couple of different things there. And what I would say is that when you look at the store, we had a lot of paper-based capability. And so, you could call a call center and schedule a salon appointment, right? Or you could try to get a hold of the store to book, a hotel, so overnight stay for your dog or doggy daycare. And that was all done very manually. So we took all those processes and we put them in cloud-based capability so that people can go online and they can see live availability and they can book their favorite groomer in the salon, and they can now book their hotel stay or their regular doggy daycare that they want to have and see real-time availability and know right away that their spot is reserved. So that's sort of like the first iteration on the salon. The next iteration was, hey, we still get a lot of cancellations because, people's lives are busy and things change. And we're trying to figure out why there's so many cancellations. And, 2020 hindsight, things look obvious when you look back on it, but, you get caught up in the moment. And that's why iteration is so important. So next iteration, hey, instead of a two-step process of canceling and having to rebook, why not let's make it one? It's just a rebook process, right? Where you don't cancel and book a new one. We take everything you said and we pop it up and we say, here are three options or whatever the options are to be as closely matched, but just maybe at a different day or a different time. And we have seen cancellations or no-shows go down significantly simply because we just made it easier for our pet parents to get the services they need when they need them. On the point of sale, it's almost a joke around here, our point of sale. When something works, you just leave it and let it run, right? But eventually it gets pretty hard to support and things start to slow down. And we're at the point now where we've replaced all of our point of sale hardware and all the point of sale software. And that's made it faster for us to be able to check out, a much smoother process there. And how that information flows up into our systems. It's a part of what's enabled real-time inventory visibility, so that if you think back to the idea of buying online, picking up in store, or shipping from store, we actually know what product is in the store with a high likelihood of accuracy because it's real-time visibility. And so it sort of made all of the in-store processes move a little bit smoother.
It totally makes sense. You talked about some of the technology changes that you've made. I wonder, from an AI perspective, what it is about artificial intelligence that excites you and ways in which you're beginning to integrate that into the ways in which you are working.
The possibilities are limitless with AI. I also think it's one of those technologies that goes through sort of the classic hype cycles, right? Where people think it's going to solve everything. And then you get to the reality of, hey, we need to plug this into our systems and actually get value out of it. The example I was using before around pick path optimization, that has driven significant benefit in our stores because you get a new associate, they don't maybe know where everything is, and instead of zigzagging around the stores to pick all these items, they can sort of go from one aisle to the next in a very smooth process. It also helps us understand our customers better so that when we do send them email and make offers, we're sending them the best offers that we have that make sense for them and where they're at. That's a very common use case, but there is a ton of value in it. We all get so much email that you tend to delete stuff right away unless it actually has value to you and speaks to you right away. So there's a whole set of things we're doing there. What I would also say is that with AI and other innovation, it's very tricky to make sure that you can actually plug it into a system that you're going to get value out of. And so we have this thing we call the innovation funnel. But the goal there is, we took a path with innovation that I call sort of decentralized. You can go to many different high-tech companies and they'll have a standalone innovation center or a think tank that's sort of off on their own, creating completely new and different products, right? And from a technology perspective, for a technology company, that makes sense. Really the job of technology at a retailer is to understand all the different technology out there and apply it in different and creative ways in our actual business. And so to have a technology innovation center that was separate, that worried me a little bit because how connected to the true needs of the business would that be? So the innovation funnel that we have is truly decentralized. We don't have a centralized innovation team. That's all they do. What our innovation team really does is they enable other people in the business and in technology to take an idea or a technology and apply it in a way that hasn't been done before to either solve a problem we didn't know we had or to try to solve a persistent problem that we sort of live with or to find some new efficiency. And so they very quickly assess whether that technology is going to fit within our business or not. Basic things like if we're dealing with money, they have to be PCI compliant. Are we protecting our customers' data appropriately and our pet data appropriately? Is there a real business case here? Are we solving a problem that needs to be solved, right? And then once all those things are very quickly determined, we also make sure, hey, do you have the right business sponsorship and the right technology partnership to move forward? Because if someone in another functional area just goes off and does something, maybe it won't fit. Or if a technologist thinks they're solving a problem, but our partners in other parts of the business don't feel like they actually need it, well, that might be a waste of time. So make sure that's there. And then we support them through the process of vetting the vendors, doing a quick prototype, and then maybe doing a pilot. And from there, then how do we adopt it company-wide? And so, that for us is a really important process in innovation to drive things forward. And we've used that with AI most definitely.
Again, great examples, Greg. I appreciate you sharing those and good tie-ins to some of the other things we've talked about already as well. One of the things I was fascinated by last time you and I caught up was the introduction of a new loyalty program with modern tiering associated with it as well. How do you envision this enhancing customer loyalty and engagement? Would love to understand the mechanics of it a bit more if you would, but provide that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at where we were before, loyalty, it was a points-based system like we have now, but it was very basic. And, we attempted to describe it a bit, but it was hard to understand like how you could progress aside from just basically accumulating points. Our marketing team is amazing. They're very forward looking. And so one of the things they identified is, hey, if we had tiers where you could earn to another level, just like some other loyalty programs, that might drive a bit more engagement. What we also identified is we need to take that tiered engagement and we need to be able to explain it seamlessly on our website and in our mobile app. We need to have it omnipresent and drive it through our really easy to understand interfaces in the mobile app when you get into your account and also through our emails. And it's given us the ability to take some of those algorithms to understand where our customers are at from our data science team and really connect that with how we're marketing loyalty to really meet the customers where they're at and help them get every value they need. Because I'll tell you, value is a pretty important piece of every customer and pet parent's mindset these days.
Great points. I wonder, we've talked about it, numerous trends that you've invested in and are taking advantage of. Any others that come to mind, Greg, as you think about the future that you would call out?
I think for us, we're doing a lot, of course, moving into the cloud and taking advantage of AI and really getting our systems ready. We're always looking at startups that bring new and different innovation. Probably what I get most excited about are things that are a little further afield. Because if I think about AI as a test case example, a lot of the machine learning was really enabled by the fact that in the cloud, you have virtually limitless amounts of compute and storage as an enterprise, right? I mean, of course, there are limits, but I can just spin up more and more if I'm willing to pay for it and the use case is there. And so that's really enabled the idea of AI that's available for all organizations and then even individual consumers with ChatGPT and things like that. So when I think about that, I think about what's the next large step change in computing. People have been talking about quantum computing. I think when that gets mainstream, it is going to open the door to all kinds of new invention and processing capability that we haven't even begun to think of. And I get really excited. I start keeping my eye on that for what that could be and trying to imagine what are those things. I'll tell you, unfortunately, the one area that people are already talking a lot about with that is that's going to really drive changes in security. And so with quantum computing, people think that a lot of stuff that's encrypted today could become unencrypted very easily. And so the question is, what's the next step for security in that space? Something we're already beginning to think about.
Certainly areas of future innovation as a result of the needs you're articulating. Really interesting points. Now, Greg, I also wanted to ask you if there's anything you've recently read, watched, and or listened to that you would recommend to a group of your peers. Anything immediately come to mind?
Yeah, maybe it's a guilty pleasure or it's an obsession or, depending on who you talk to, everyone has a different opinion. But I really spend a lot of time reading and listening to books that talk about the practice of management and personal development. In technology, we're not necessarily known for our fantastic abilities to communicate because sometimes we prefer to spend more time heads down on a keyboard than others. And so I've been spending a lot of time really thinking about leadership and communication. And I find that so much technology is not as complicated as some people tend to make it. And when we can break it down and communicate it really clearly, that's when we make our best technology decisions. And so from that perspective, I would tell you that I've been reading this book lately that's really been a mindset shift for me, and that's Super Communicators. The concepts laid out in there, they're truly about human connection and how driving the right kind of human connection will really allow you to be someone who can communicate with other people and get through really tough decisions in really tough moments. To me, it's been transformational, and I'd encourage anyone else to take a look at it.
Well, clearly you're adopting the practices you're learning in the books about communications at a minimum, as this has been a great conversation, Greg. So many great insights shared. I appreciate you talking about the many transformations led here in less than 2 years within your organization together with your team. It's been a great conversation, and I'm grateful for the time you spent with me. Thank you.
Hey, Peter, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it as well.